Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion. Corrosion to her thighs. Erosion. Erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar. Baby's got. Baby's got. Corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday to you. Happy May Day. May Day, May Day. It is May Day. Oh, it's, I shouldn't say this. Fuck it, I'm going to say it. I once knew a girl named Mayday. She was always going down. Game.film, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Not this past weekend, the weekend before last. He was, Game.film was in town in Chicago with his lady friend, and they came and hang out with us Saturday night, watch some Svengoolie, eat some pizza, hang out, do the Chicago thing. It was fun. Really enjoyed hanging out with him and his lady friend. Hopefully they can make their way back here again soon. We'll see. They're down there in Tejas, so that heat will probably drive them up here over the summer. They're like, I can't deal with this. I gotta go. What's up, Laine? Good to see you. Yeah, it was just it was kind of an impromptu thing. We didn't really know what they were going to be doing, their plans or whatever. So, yeah. So, but it was good to see them. It's good to see people that you don't normally see IRL. You know. So, but yeah, that was a fun time. Always good to see peeps when we can. And he managed to get the best and the worst of our weather up here too. It was like when he got up here, it was all muggy and humid and kind of hot, and then the storm blew through, and now we've been having freeze watches, and what is it now, 46? Yeah. Spring, winter said not quite done yet, at least not with the Midwest. Yeah, we weren't on last week. Was not feeling very well that whole day. So I decided to take a teacher day off and work on lesson plans. But I'm back here today. We'll be back for tonight too, for the secret show. So anyway, we've got more bad news. That's all we have these days is bad news, isn't it? That's all we ever do is bad news around here. Well, you got more. At least we're consistent. Congress passes 45-day extension of warrantless spy powers. Oh, yep, all those spy powers. Both the House and the Senate passed a 45-day extension of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, also known as FISA. which gives the federal government the power to conduct warrantless surveillance of Americans. Thanks, Obama. The Senate passed the 45-day extension by unanimous consent, and the bill then passed the House by a vote of 261 to 111. Without the extension, Section 702 would have expired at midnight. Oh, that's too bad. Willie Bragg in the house. Happy May Day to you, buddy. That's right. May Day greetings and happy International Labor Day. Yes, it is. Supposed to be some rallies today. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. A day earlier, the House passed a 3-year extension of the spying power, but the bill included a ban on the Federal Reserve issuing digital currencies, which the Senate rejected. Bum, bum, bum. Section 702, which was first enacted in 2008, authorizes warrantless surveillance of non-Americans and allows the collection of a massive amount of data, including communications with Americans, which are stored indefinitely. Trump has been calling for Congress to pass the Section 702 extension even through his 2016 campaign was targeted under FISA. In one post on Truth Social, the president said he was willing to give up his rights and privileges to extend the spying power, an acknowledgement that it violates civil liberties. I'm willing to give up my rights and privileges for safety. I think somebody said if you're willing to give up your rights for safety, you deserve neither. I think it's the guy who's on one of our money. I can't remember the guy. While parts of FISA were illegally and unfortunately used against me in the Democrats' disgraceful witch hunt and attack in the Russia hoax, and perhaps would be used against me in the future, I'm willing to risk well, he's probably willing to risk that too. I'm willing to risk the giving up of my rights and privileges as a citizen for our great military and country, the president wrote on Truth Social, or somebody wrote for him. Is that it? Is that all we get? So yeah, so it's not permanent. So it's 45 days. That's about a month and a half. Hold on a second. I gotta get growth. Okay. We back? All right. Yeah. So, yeah. And this was started under Obama. So yeah, once again, the parties are not your friends. Oh, it's a party. All right. But it's not a party for you. So we go into that. And so we'll have to deal with that come, middle of June, something like that. Meanwhile, the Voting Rights Act is getting gutted again. If I can hit the button. There we go. U.S. House primaries in Louisiana are suspended after Voting Rights Act ruling. This is the governor of Louisiana. He looks like an 80s televangelist, or he's about to ask the contestant if they want to buy a vowel. So Wheel of Fortune reference for those not in the know. Louisiana has suspended its upcoming primaries for the U.S. House following Wednesday's U.S. Supreme Court ruling that the state's congressional map is an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Isn't that like every state's congressional map? The rest of Louisiana's primaries, including for U.S. Senate, will proceed as scheduled, with early voting starting Saturday and the primary date set for May 16th. It's unclear when the House races will continue. Go away, Miles Parker, whatever your name is. Allowing elections to proceed under an unconstitutional map would undermine the integrity of our system and violate the rights of our voters. Governor Jeff Landry, Republican, said in a statement announcing the suspension. This executive order ensures we uphold the rule of law. Sorry. While giving the legislature the time it needs to pass a fair and lawful congressional map. The last-minute change follows the Supreme Court's ruling Wednesday in a case about Louisiana's congressional map that weakens protections against racial discrimination in redistricting. The ruling centered on one of the state's two Democratic-held predominantly black U.S. House districts. It's expected that the Republican-led legislature will now redraw its congressional map to eliminate at least one of those Democratic seats in this year's midterm elections. Sneaky. In a statement, Secretary of State Nancy Landry, I wonder if there's any relation there. Maybe. It's Louisiana. I'm pretty sure they're all related. A Republican said, our office will post notices at each of the early voting sites to alert the public of this change. While the U.S. House races will remain on voters' ballots, any votes cast in those races will not be counted. Absentee ballots for the state primary have already been sent out. So, yeah. So, Louisiana, the Florida of the South that isn't Florida. So, what's up, CBC voter? Good to see you. Yeah, gerrymandering. Both parties do it, and this is not like a, well, they do it too kind of thing. It's true. They both do it. But you see some of these congressional maps, they look wild. You'll see stuff that looks like spaghetti or a shoestring that's tied. And that's supposed to be a district. They need to come off of this bullshit and be serious about this stuff. Because these House legislatures, they've been doing this for years and years and years. Screwing around with the gerrymandering. And once again, what do? We do nothing. What's up, Chuck? Good to see you. It is International Space Day. That's like every day for you up there, though. Last year, you may remember this. I believe this was down at Texas. Yeah, I think this was Texas. Camp Mystic was just basically washed away from and killed several people. We'll get into it here in just a second. Let me get this set up here. So Camp Mystic abandons its bid to reopen this summer. Let's see. We got to listen to the article. I would not like to do that. Why are you not going down? Oh, when technology fails. So Camp Mystic on Thursday said it has withdrawn its application for an operating license, a decision that means it will not reopen to campers this summer. The decision follows a grueling hearing earlier this week when Texas lawmakers pushed the family that runs the camp to consider if they were truly ready to reopen after 25 campers and 2 counselors died there during last year's July 4th flood, along with the camp's executive director, Dick Eastland. Family members of the girls who died also spoke passionately to the camp directors in that hearing about their loss. No administrative process or summer season should move forward while families continue to grieve, while investigations continue, and while so many Texans still carry the pain of last July's tragedy. Tragedy, I should say, the camp said in its statement. Camp Mystic had planned to welcome back more than 800 girls to a portion of its property that was away from the hardest hit areas where people died. The camp said girls would be safe there, and it wanted to continue its mission. We're grateful that no child will be placed in the Eastland's care this summer. Cece and Will Stewart, whose daughter Seal's body still has not been found, said in a written statement. They added that the camp's decision did not amount to accountability in their eyes. It was not out of respect for our grieving families, nor because they wanted to do the next right thing, the statement said. We have pled with them to stop since September. It was a calculated exit from a license they were about to lose. Camp Mystic has a 100-year history in the state, with generations of women from the same families going to the camp along the winding Guadalupe River in Kerr County. People rallied to its defense in the aftermath of the flood, which killed more than 100 people in Kerr County when it tore through vacation homes, RV parks, and other structures. But the families who lost children demanded accountability and change. Many of them lobbied state lawmakers to pass reforms aimed at making camps safer, resulting in new laws requiring camps to have robust emergency plans, to install emergency warning systems, and to evacuate flood-prone buildings when flash flood warnings are issued. And that was the main deal with the camp. It was taken out by a flash flood. And flash floods, you kind of always have to be prepared for all year round, right? Because you never know when they're going to happen. Unless you've got some sort of, structural thing where you're not allowing that to overflow like that, it's going to keep doing it. The Stewarts filed a lawsuit against Camp Mystic and sought to keep the property shut so evidence could be preserved. A judge agreed that the portion of the camp where the girls died would remain closed. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, meanwhile, repeatedly called on the Texas Department of State Health Services not to renew the camp's license application. The department reviewed the camp's new emergency plan and recently found it deficient in multiple areas, which the agency said was common across the state as camps worked to come to compliance with the new laws. Camp Mystic still had time to fix those errors if it had decided to reopen. The agency and the Texas Rangers are also investigating complaints about the camp's care of children, while the camp also faces additional lawsuits. At the 2-day hearing on Monday and Tuesday, members of the Eastland family listened to a state investigator walk through how the camp had failed to plan and train counselors to evacuate cabins during floods, and how their chaotic evacuation attempts began too late, resulting in counselors passing campers through windows to escape the rushing water. Jesus. In emotional testimony, Edward Eastland, who directed the portion of the camp where girls died, apologized to the families for the camp's failures. The Eastlands then faced hours of questioning from lawmakers, including pointed questions about whether they would keep operating. Edward Eastland's wife, Mary Liz Eastland, said the family would be willing to step back and take a pause if it meant the camp could keep going. After the camp's announcement on Thursday, Patrick, in a social media post, said he felt thankful to hear of the Eastlands' choice. Governor Greg Abbott, in a statement, said his heart was with the families of those who died. We never imagined a world without our daughters, and no decision made now can change that, said Matthew Childress, whose daughter Chloe, a Camp Mystic counselor, died. As Camp Mystic steps back, we step forward with an unshakable commitment to remembrance, to accountability, and to ensuring our daughters' lives leave a lasting impact that protects the others. Yes, this was horrible. A horrible situation that had happened down there. Just to remind you, this was July 4th. And basically, this is a girls' camp that was situated close to the river, or close to some sort of water. I think I mentioned that in there. But yeah, flash flood came through. They weren't ready for it. And to be fair, it's very hard to be ready for a flash flood. And I think it hit at night too. And that makes it increasingly difficult. But at the same time, if you're going to have kids camping on your property and you want their families to know that they're safe, you have to take precaution after precaution after precaution, especially if you know that these flash floods are prone to happen. Just, I guess they expected flash floods, but nothing that severe. But, unfortunately, it's a learning experience. If they want to do this again, we'll see what happens. If anybody can actually afford going to summer camp anymore, that may be just like a fantasy from the past, as Americans report worst financial outlook since 2001. All right, quarter century of failure. A growing share of Americans say their financial situation is deteriorating, reaching the highest level in more than 2 decades, according to new polling data from Gallup. In a survey conducted between April 1st and April 15th, 55% of respondents said their personal finances are getting worse, up from 53% last year and 47% in 2024. So each year seems to be getting more and more. The figure marks the highest level since 2001, exceeding readings recorded during both the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. You remember those economic nightmares, don't you? I sure do. The poll also shows a sustained trend, with this being the 5th consecutive year in which more Americans report worsening financial conditions rather than improvement. Ding, 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 ding. It's a wake-up call. What happened? All right. When asked to identify their most pressing financial concern, 31% of respondents cited the cost of living. Energy costs were also a major pressure point, with 13% naming them as their top issue, an increase of 10 percentage points from last year and the highest level since 2008, since the last financial, well, the one before, the the thing. The findings come amid renewed pressure on household budgets, driven in part by rising fuel prices. Data from the American Automobile Association, that's AAA to you and me, show the average price of gasoline at $4.11 per gallon. We'll get more into that coming up sharply from levels below $3 before the start of the Iran war. High energy costs have contributed to broader concerns about inflation and declining purchasing power. While inflation has eased from its 2022 peak, it remains above levels seen during Trump's previous term, continuing to weigh on public sentiment. The combination of elevated living costs, persistent inflation, and rising fuel prices has contributed to a sustained decline in financial optimism. According to the survey, these pressures are also emerging as a potential political challenge ahead of the upcoming midterm elections, with voter frustration over affordability increasingly shaping public sentiment. In mid-April, the U.S. Energy Information Administration warned that even if the war on Iran ends before May, which it didn't, because it's May 1st today, energy prices are unlikely to normalize until late 2026, well into the election season. So they're kind of screwed with that. The DNC has seized on the mood, blasting supporters Friday with the headline, "Consumer Sentiment Drops to Lowest on Record." Democrats don't need to be talking shit, because the shit was pretty bad when they were in charge with Sleepy Joe. So I'm just saying. Even Trump appeared to acknowledge the problem in a Fox News interview, conceding that gas prices by November could be the same or maybe a little bit higher. A damaging admission from a president who built much of his electoral campaign around cheap fuel. And no wars, too. Remember that? He said no wars. But he said, let's have a war so we can't have cheap fuel. A twofer. One major GOP donor revealed to the Washington Post that if gas prices do not revert to the mean in the next 45 days, he predicts voters are going to punish Republicans at the ballot boxes. Yup. That's probably what's going to happen. Another poll by CBS News conducted in early April underscores the challenges facing the administration, particularly the biggest challenge is the guy leading the administration, particularly among independent voters, where Trump's approval rating stands at 31% compared to 69% who disapprove. Yeah, 69%. The survey also found that a majority of Americans report rising gas prices in their areas, contributing to increasingly negative perceptions of the economy. Are you just waking up? That's good. We need more people awake. Concerns over a potential recession are also climbing. Aren't we in a recession? Who even knows about that shit anymore? That just sounds like some buzzwords at this point. Recession, depression, obsession. It's one of those Eshin words. With approximately 1/3 of respondents anticipating an economic downturn within the next year. Public resistance to higher energy costs appeared strong, with 67% of Americans saying they are unwilling to pay more at the pump amid the war on Iran. Despite these concerns, Trump's overall approving rating has remained relatively stable, hovering around 40% or in the low 40s for several months. He continues to maintain solid support among Republican voters, who, well, that's not surprising. Though his disapproval rating stands at 60%. Polling averages compiled by Real Clear Politics indicate that the president is currently at the lowest approval level of his second term, with an average approval rating of 41%. And that number is probably exaggerated too. Because there's so much propaganda floating around. It's like turds in a swimming pool. Sorry. That was what was it? Never mind. So yeah, and updating those gas prices. So U.S. gas reaches $4.30 per gallon. Trump says prices will drop after Iran war. So let's talk about this for a second. The average price of 1 gallon of gas in the U.S. has reached $4.30, according to the American AAA, up from less than $3 before February 28th, the start of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Thursday's prices come as Trump insists that time is on his side. Was he Rolling Stones fan? Was it? Time is on his side. Yes, it is. In the standoff with Iran, even as he refuses Tehran's offers of a preliminary deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Or as it was Scott Bennett said, Besant, the Straits of Vermouth. I like my vermouth straight, no curves. According to AAA, prices for gas or petrol went up by 27 cents over the past week amid the deepening impasse with Iran blocking the strait and the U.S. imposing a naval siege on Iranian ports. The national average is $1.12 higher than it was this time last year as oil prices surged above $100 a barrel with no indication of when the Strait of Hormuz will reopen, AAA said in a brief report yesterday. Gas prices are the highest they've been in 4 years since late July 2022. California, home to nearly 40 million people, saw petrol prices hit more than $6 per gallon on Thursday. I'm pretty sure that was pretty cheap compared to other places. The spike in energy prices has been fueling inflation and economic uncertainty, adding to Trump's political woes. Trump's approval rating hitting record lows. We told you about that. Since the start of the war, Trump and his allies have been trying to frame the hike in petrol prices as a temporary price worth paying to achieve the aims of the military campaign. You know, the old short-term pain for long-term gain. Yes. The president reiterated that argument on Thursday when asked about the latest price increase. And you know what? We're not going to have a nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran. The president mumbled while shitting himself. The gas will go down. As soon as the war is over, it'll drop like a rock. Apparently, he doesn't know how gas prices work, even in non-wartime situations. However, oil prices do not drop automatically after hostilities stop. Despite the ceasefire reached on April 8th, the cost of gas in the U.S. has continued to climb. You see how that works? That's called greed, motherfuckers. Iran denies seeking a nuclear weapon. They've been denying it. Deny. That's all they do is deny it, but here we are. Although the U.S. is one of the largest oil producers and is not heavily reliant on energy products from the Middle East, global prices affect what Americans pay at the pump. Exactly. Well, we have oil here in America. How come we got plenty of oil? They say we got plenty of oil. Why are gas prices so high here? Because that's not how it fucking works, stupid. Pay attention. When oil prices go up, gas prices go up. And when oil prices drop, those gas prices stay up. But it's all a scam. On Thursday, Trump mumbled something about Iran being all but vanquished militarily and economically, a claim he has been repeating since the early days of the conflict. Yeah, he's still contemplating where they're going to bomb him again. I guess that they didn't defeat him enough. Iran is dying to make a deal, he said, calling the naval blockade against the country incredible. Iran has projected defiance, refusing to hold direct talks with the U.S. until the siege is lifted, even after Trump announced last week that he was dispatching his top envoys to Pakistan to negotiate with Iranian officials. Earlier on Tuesday, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian suggested that Iran is running out of patience with the current situation of no war and no peace amid the U.S. siege. The world has witnessed Iran's tolerance and conciliation. What is being done under the guise of a naval blockade is an extension of military operations against a nation paying the price for its resistance and independence, Pezeshkian said in a social media post. Continuation of this oppressive approach is intolerable. See, look how this guy speaks. He's talking about, you know, he's talking about under the guise. Who says fancy shit like that? Trump's like, yeah, you know, they were in some sort of disguise. It was like a Halloween costume from the 70s. You know, it was a big plastic mask, and then you had this really tiny rubber band that went around and cut your head off. It was crazy times, man. It was crazy. On a Halloween mask rant from the 70s. War. Peace sells, but who's buying? Apparently nobody. Major U.S. wars since Korea have killed over 4 million civilians and cost nearly $6 trillion. That's with a T. With a Mr. T. So Trump's war in Iran has passed the 2-month mark with little to show for it besides thousands of dead civilians, gas prices exceeding $4 a gallon, and tens of billions of dollars in taxpayer funds spent. Well, at least federal funds spent. You get into an MMT debate about that. We need to have a show. We need to get the MMT people together and remind people what MMT is and what they're doing with it. It's just the latest in a decades-long series of U.S.-led wars that have cost unfathomable amounts of blood and treasure, according to an analysis out this week by Al Jazeera. It estimates that major U.S. military engagements since 1950, so in the last 75 years, in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan have directly cost the lives of nearly 4.5 million civilians and more than $5.7 trillion. The data collected into a sprawling open-source war costs archive maintained by the data project.ai comes from a variety of government reports, peer-reviewed academic research, and investigative organizations. The civilian casualty number notably only includes those directly caused by the wars themselves, not those caused by the resulting losses of food, health care, or war-related disease. That's just war alone, not the aftermath. It also does not include the lives lost in proxy conflicts funded by the U.S., Saudi Arabia's brutal war in Yemen, which resulted in an estimated 150,000 violent civilian deaths between 2015 and 2022, or Israel's more than 2-year genocidal war in Gaza, which has resulted in at least over 75,000 deaths that we know of, and likely many more. The dollar figure, meanwhile, does not include the additional $2.2 trillion the U.S. is expected to spend caring for veterans of the post-9/11 wars until 2050, according to Brown University's Costs of War Research series. Oh, they have a whole series. Even compared with the staggering figures throughout U.S. history, the cost of the war in Iran so far is uniquely high. The Pentagon estimated that during just the first 6 days of the war, the U.S. government spent an average of $1.88 billion per day, nearly 3 times the daily cost of the next most expensive major conflict, Iraq. On Wednesday, Pentagon Comptroller Jules Hurst told Congress that the Iran war had cost about $25 billion in total since it began 2 months ago, but many critics, including Representative Ro Khanna, have suggested that this number is totally off and the cost is likely much higher. Yeah, because you're not even figuring in the Black Ops costs, too, that we don't know anything about. Stephen Semler, a data analyst and senior fellow at the Center for International Policy, estimated based on statements from officials, federal procurement and operations data, and reporting on military deployments and armaments used, that by March 13th, just 2 weeks into the conflict, the war had already cost about $28.7 billion, over $2.1 billion per day. Per day! In 10 days, that could have solved homelessness in the United States for 1 year. $20 billion. That'll do it. This analysis included the military's operational costs, the costs of weapons, damage to the U.S. military assets, and subsidies to Israel. You can't forget those. You got to pay the alimony check. The Trump administration has reportedly requested an additional $200 billion in military funding from Congress for the war. The war in Iran resulted in over 1,700 civilian deaths during its first 40 days, according to the U.S.-based human rights activist and news agency, equivalent to about 43 per day, nearly double the number killed per day in Afghanistan. What distinguishes the Iran war from previous U.S. military adventures is its staggering unpopularity. Yeah, we don't like it. We don't like your words. We'll let you know. So yeah, at its start, polls showed 43% of Americans disapproved of Trump's decision to launch the war. Disapproval had jumped to 60% as of April 12th, and well, now it's up to 61, I think. With the exception of the Korean War, which began very unpopular and gained approval over time, no other major U.S. conflict has begun with so little backing from the U.S. public. Just 9% disapproved of the Afghanistan war when it began, 23% disapproved of Iraq, and 24% disapproved of Vietnam, and it took years for the majority of the public to turn against them. Well, we got the internet now. We can see the bullshit instantly instead of having to wait several years for some sort of, oh yeah, we meant to tell you this, but it was classified. The War Cost Data Center estimates that the nearly $8 trillion spent on these major wars could have paid for a century of four-year public college for every American, 400 years of clean drinking water for everyone on Earth, or more than 200 years of universal pre-K for every child. Or, like you said, we could probably house a shit ton of people. Citing a recent expert estimate that the Iran war could cost $1 trillion if it goes on for a decade. Oh, God. Senator Bernie Sanders lamented in a social media post that somehow there's always money for war, but never enough money for housing, education, or the needs of working people. The senator said, "We must and will change our national priorities." I'm amazed he didn't quote Tupac here. Somehow there's always money for war, but we can't feed the poor. Out on bail, fresh out of jail, California dreaming. As soon as I'm back on the scene, I hear Hoochie screaming for Bernie. Sorry, that's my Bernie Pac, which I probably should have kept to myself. Yay, Christmas. Yeah, so we told you about the gas prices. Let's get to the Earl. Let's get to that Earl, y'all. So oil prices rise again with little sign of war on Iran ending. This is the new normal now, folks. Oil prices are spiking again as efforts to resolve the Iran war remain at an impasse, with Tehran continuing to block the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. Navy blockading Iranian ports and exports of Iranian crude. Today, Brent crude, the international benchmark, was up 89 cents at $111.29 a barrel, compared with about $65 before the U.S. and Israel began strikes on Iran in February 28th. Let me do my, so let's do some math. 35 and 11, that's 40, that's up $46 a barrel. Overall, the Brent benchmark was poised for a 5.7% gain over the week, the Reuters news agency reported. Brent crude futures for June also continued to rise yesterday, hitting $126.41 a barrel before expiry, marking the highest level since March 2022. A Pakistan brokered ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran has been in place since April 8th to allow time for talks. But on Thursday evening, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said it was unreasonable to expect quick results, the official IRNA news agency reported. Expecting to reach a result in a short time, regardless of who the mediator is, in my opinion, is not very realistic, he was quoted as saying. There's not a lot of realistic stuff going on in this Iranian war, especially the rhetoric coming out of the West. Iran has threatened to strike back if the U.S. renews attacks, including on U.S. assets in neighboring Gulf countries. UAE Presidential Advisor Anwar Gargash wrote in a post on the tweeters that no unilateral Iranian arrangements can be trusted or relied upon regarding freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz as a result of its treacherous aggression against its neighbors. Well, guess what? Its neighbors has U.S. bases all over it. U.S. bases that launch missiles at it. So might want to tamp down the sob story there. Anwar, is it? 1/5 of the world's supplies of oil and liquefied natural gas are shipped through the strait, which connects Gulf producers to the open ocean in peacetime. In wartime, you must carry it over land, over mountains, naked. Probably don't want to do that. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that if the disruption caused by the closure of the waterway drags on past the middle of the year, global growth is expected to fall, while inflation will rise and tens of millions more people will be pushed into poverty and extreme hunger. Well, maybe if your greedy governments did something about it, you wouldn't be pushed into that, but just saying. The longer this vital artery is choked, the harder it will be to reverse the damage, he told reporters in New York yesterday. Meanwhile, a White House official on Wednesday said that Trumpy had asked U.S. oil companies to find ways to mitigate the impact of a potentially months-long siege of Iranian ports. You could stop sieging them, siege them. stop sieging them. The president and oil executives discussed the steps Trump has taken to alleviate global oil markets and steps we could take to continue the current blockade for months if needed and minimize impact on American consumers, the officials said. How we'll do that? Don't know. I pulled that out of my ass as it was. Okay, so that's it for that. Yeah, so oil prices going up, food prices going up, gas prices going up. And this isn't like it just started. This is more of a continuing to situation. I mean, to say the Republicans are going to get shit hammered in November is kind of a foregone conclusion. The real question is, what are Democrats going to do once they take over the House and the Senate? They have been lackluster at best in the past. And I'm being very generous with lackluster as far as what the Democrats do once they're in power, because they do nothing. They're just as much cucks to Israel as the Republicans are. So if you're in either party, if you claim to be a Democrat or a Republican, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, and you need to get out of those parties. They're not for you. They're money-making schemes. They're money-making schemes, and all those people are controlled by lobbyists and people with a lot of money. So they had Smeg's Breath. They had him in on Capitol Hill to rip him a new one. War criminal Pete Hegseth, or as our buddy Mystery calls him, Smeg's Breath, hammered on true costs of Iran debacle during Senate hearing. Pete Hegseth, you're a war criminal. You should be arrested. That was his wife when he was leaving the house that morning. No, I'm sorry. That was an anti-war activist shouted at the U.S. Secretary of Defense, who was on Capitol Hill Thursday to testify at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing. Always a good time. I hear they have great snacks at these things. About the administration's unprecedented Pentagon budget request, Trump's illegal war on Iran, and more. What you're doing is despicable, the Code Pink activist Gus told Hegseth, or Smeg's Breath, as he was escorted out of the hearing and arrested. The American people do not want to go into this war. We don't want to fight a war with Israel. Wait a minute. That means they don't want to fight a war alongside of Israel. Not, okay, that's what they meant. All right. As civilian casualties across the Middle East and gasoline prices across the United States have soared, so has U.S. public's disapproval of Trump and Israel's war on Iran. There are ceasefire agreements in place for both that assault and Israel's related attacks, supposedly targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon. But as Amnesty International noted in a Wednesday statement demanding international action to promote sustainable peace in the region, those deals are fragile, temporary, and in danger of collapse at any moment, if they're even agreements at all. Smeg's Breath... Smeg's Breath, whose controversial Senate confirmation required a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance, last appeared before the Senate committee in June as the panel's ranking member, Senator Jack Reed, Democrat out of Rhode Island, pointed out to the Pentagon chief in his opening remarks Thursday, since then, you and Trumpy have unwisely taken the U.S. to war with Iran. He didn't say Trumpy. Those were my words. That war has killed at least 3,375 Iranians and injured another 25,000, while recent Israeli attacks on Lebanon have killed more than 2,200 people and wounded over 7,500, according to Amnesty. Iran and Hezbollah's retaliatory strikes have killed at least 21 civilians in Israel, 4 Palestinians in the illegally occupied West Bank, and 29 people across the Gulf, including 13 U.S. service members. But our propaganda department won't tell you that. The Department of War, as Smeg's Breath and Trump call it, estimated that the first 6 days of the Iran assault cost an average of $1.88 billion. We shot that number down in the last segment there. Beyond the Middle East, Smeg's Breath has led a U.S. attack on Venezuela and directed an ongoing illegal boat strike campaign in the Caribbean and Pacific, Reed noted, at the Defense Secretary's direction. The senator continued, our forces have bombed Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Syria, Nigeria, and Ecuador. But This is the peace president. Come on, y'all. It's the peace president. Low prices every day. This is the Walmart president. In the United States, we have deployed thousands of troops to cities like Washington, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Portland to police American citizens. Don't forget Minnesota. Reed told Hegseth, Smeg's Breath, and you have personally intervened to end the careers of dozens of military leaders without explanation. Reed went on to express skepticism about Trump's massive defense budget request and ripped the president's incoherent strategy on the Iran war. He also acknowledged various costs of the conflict, stressing that American families are bearing the cost of a war they wanted nothing to do with and have gained nothing from. Other standout moments from the hearing included Senator Elizabeth Warren grilling Hegseth about other suspicious bets related to the Iran war and oil prices, as well as his own investments, the latter of which drew hostile responses from the secretary. Hiss. Yeah, I'm sure there's some shit there. Astro Boy, Senator Mark Kelly has had a contentious relationship with Hegseth, Smeg's Breath, since a retired U.S. Navy captain participated in a November video advising military service members that they have a duty to disobey unlawful orders, which drew legally dubious retaliation from the Pentagon secretary. On Thursday, Kelly questioned Hegseth about his March declaration that no quarter will be given to our enemies in Iran, which was similar to previous comments from the secretary, who said last September that we also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our war fighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement, just common sense, maximum genocide. Sorry, lethality and authority for warfighters. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, a former Central Intelligence Agency analyst who joined Kelly in the video to service members, questioned Smeg's Breath about how he would handle Trump directing him to have troops seize ballots or voting machines during the 2026 midterm elections. Smeg's Breath was openly dismissive of Slotkin, chuckling at her, calling her question yet another gotcha hypothetical, which is your specialty, and accusing the senator of performing for cable news, which is ironic since this guy came from cable news. As Hegseth, Hurst, and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Dan Kane testified on Capitol Hill for the second day in a row, they also appeared before the House Armed Service Committee on Wednesday. The U.S.'s largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group sent Congress a report calling for the defense secretary's impeachment. The record presented here establishes that military operations carried out under Smeg's Breath leadership constituted war crimes under U.S. and international law, including the killing of civilians, the destruction of infrastructure indispensable to civilian survival, and the targeting of protected religious and other civilian sites, states the foreword from the report from the Council on American Islamic Relations and CAIR Action, C-A-I-R. These crimes were not accidental, the foreword continues. They followed deliberate decisions to strip away legal oversight, weaken operational restraints, and dismantle civilian harm mitigation structures, even as senior Trump administration officials warned President Trump that a U.S.-Israel war on Iran was not feasible and risked broader regional escalation. CAIR Action Executive Director Bassem El-Kara, the report's co-author, said in a statement that Hegseth's record not only establishes a basis for impeachment, but also raises serious questions of criminal liability. Yeah. While testifying to House panel about Trump's Iran war, Hegseth claimed that the biggest challenge was combing my hair. Sorry, the biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans. Responding on Thursday, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on the floor, "Take a look in the mirror. Our greatest challenge in Iran is Donald Trump and Secretary Smeg's Breath, and Americans know it. The war is unpopular. They blame Trump for it, of course. The greatest obstacle to peace is the incompetence of the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States." Don't forget the House and the Senate, too. They're equally as incompetent. Hey, Smeg's Breath's Senate testimony came on the eve of a key deadline that increases pressure on Congress to pass a war powers resolution. ending Trump's assault on Iran. So far, multiple efforts in both Republican-controlled chambers have failed, though Democrats haven't stopped trying. Tomorrow marks 60 days since Donald Trump officially notified Congress about his attack on Iran. After we cross that 60-day threshold, there can be no more doubts that he's violating the War Powers Act, Schumer stressed. Republicans are out of hollow excuses. They're out of hiding places. End this war, Republicans. Bring our troops home. Stop bleeding taxpayers dry. Support our war powers. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So they had Captain Haircut. They had him up there. So what about this war with Iran? They said, well, everybody's against it, right? Well, what are the numbers? Your fucking numbers. 61% of Americans call military action against Iran a mistake. These are normies, too. These aren't like regular, nutties like me. The majority of Americans want the war on Iran, view the war on Iran as a mistake, according to a new survey conducted by ABC News and Ipsos, despite continued strong support among Republican voters. The poll found that 61% of respondents said the use of military force against Iran was wrong, signaling broad public skepticism toward the war. The survey indicated that Trump's war on Iran is registering levels of unpopularity similar to major U.S. wars, including the war on Iraq at its peak in 2006 and the Vietnam War in the early 70s. According to historical polling cited from ABC News, The Washington Post, and Ipsos, opposition to the war on Iraq reached 59% in mid-2006, but it took years for public sentiments to reach that level. In contrast, opposition to the war, the Iran war, has reached similar levels within just 2 months. Again, 20 years ago, we didn't have the cell phone and camera. We didn't have as much opportunity to see information that we do today. We're seeing more now than we could in the past, right? Regular people, because they look on their phones and they go, okay, this is what's happening. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I think it's more instant access to information, although there's more instant access to disinformation too. But still, the information is out there. We still on? I guess we're still on. Does frames drop? Really? Okay, whatever. So the findings suggest the war effort is facing limited public support at a time of growing concern over its economic consequences. Yeah, so the economy it was bad enough already. This didn't help. Many Americans reportedly fear the war could contribute to a potential recession, adding pressure on the U.S. economy. The survey also highlights continued efforts by the White House to frame economic conditions under Trump as improved compared with previous administrations. It's a different kinds of shitty. That's what it is. The poll reveals a deep political split over how the U.S. should approach Iran. Among independents, 50% said they would accept a peace deal even if it is unfavorable to U.S. interests, compared with 39% who oppose such an outcome. Among Democrats, 76% support pursuing a settlement even under less favorable terms. Republicans, however, take a different position, with 79% favoring continued pressure on Iran to secure a stronger agreement, even if it risks prolonging or escalating the war. Maybe we should just get to know Iran before we attack it or even criticize it. Because we never get a clear idea of what Iran is, right? You hear all this propaganda from the left side or the right side, and it's just, there's actual independent journalists who are over there in Iran right now. What's his face? I think he's from antiwar.com. Names on tip of my tongue, but of course I'm old. My brain is stupid. So what about this war? Is this going to heat up again or not? What's going on? Tel Aviv is bracing for renewal of U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Look at that. Look how gross that is. It's like two fat kids, slobbering over a sandwich. Israel is bracing itself for the collapse of negotiations between Washington and Tehran and resumption of all-out war against the Islamic Republic The Israeli Channel 12 outlet reported yesterday the Israeli army is on heightened alert, and Israeli officials have held intensive, high-level consultations on the matter. According to the Channel 12 television report, Tel Aviv was preparing for the possibility that the talks would fall apart as soon as next week. Cabinet members have been briefed that Washington will need to give a push to its blockade on Iranian ports and the Strait of Hormuz through military strikes on Iran's energy facilities. You go ahead and bomb them. Go ahead. Yeah, Wyatt Reed, that was his name. Yeah, that's who's over there. Channel 12 also said that yesterday 2 ships and several cargo aircraft have arrived in Israel carrying thousands of aerial and ground munitions as well as military equipment, totaling 6.5 tons, or 6,500 tons, I'm sorry, as part of the preparations for the renewal of the genocide. Of the war with Iran, I'm sorry. The reports coincided with Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz signaling renewed military action. President Trump, in coordination with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is leading the effort to complete the campaign's objectives in a way that ensures Iran will not return to being a threat to the existence of Israel, to the U.S., and to the free world for generations to come. We support this effort and provide the necessary backing, but we may soon be required to act again to ensure the objectives are achieved, Katz said in a statement, reading from the Necronomicon, apparently. Axios has reported a day earlier on Wednesday? Yeah. That Trump was set to be briefed on a series of options for renewed attacks against Iran. CENTCOM has readied a short and powerful wave of strikes on Iran, likely including infrastructure targets, in hopes of breaking the negotiation deadlock and committing more war crimes. Add them to the pile, boys. The U.S. has maintained an illegal blockade on Iranian ports throughout the ceasefire while also imposing new sanctions. Tehran has repeatedly warned that it may take further military action following its recent retaliation to the seizure of its vessels by Washington. Yeah. Keep poking the bear, boys. I'm sure that's not going to backfire in your face. It hadn't so far. Anywho, and about that ceasefire in Lebanon, well, you know, when it's, Israel's involved, it's not a cease. You should cease firing. We will keep firing. We will not cease. Woman killed, children injured as Israel attacks Lebanon. There's your ceasefire, y'all. A woman was killed and several children were injured during Israel's latest attacks in Lebanon. Civilians are the majority of victims of attacks over the past 24 hours, of course. But they're all Hezbollah. The Israeli army said that it has hit 40 Hezbollah sites in the past day in renewed airstrikes across southern Lebanon. Hezbollah said it retaliated with several attacks on Israeli forces within Lebanese territory. Al Jazeera reporter Zina Coder reported that Israel is increasingly deploying a military campaign of erasure in southern Lebanon, mirroring tactics it used in Gaza. Yes, where everybody there was Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Here it's Hezbollah, Hezbollah, Hezbollah. Israeli troops have been systematically destroying civilian homes, infrastructure, and water networks and aiming to make southern Lebanon unlivable, activists and observers say. Human rights activists have called the destruction a war crime. Yeah, they're just like, add it to our tab. Tens of thousands of people in villages along the southern border have been affected by Israeli strikes. Monir Kablan, a resident of Mais al-Jabal in Lebanon's southern Marjayoun district, whose home was destroyed, said, I felt overwhelmed with deep sorrow because this house, I have a lot of memories with my parents, my relatives, especially my grandmother. What hurt me when I saw the uprooted olive trees that I planted with my father and brothers in 2007, and we took care of it like we took care of our children. Israel has shared satellite imagery showing entire neighborhoods leveled in southern Lebanon. The Israeli army is occupying a zone that is roughly 10% of Lebanon's territory. It's created a so-called yellow line, south of which is a no-go area because anyone who approaches it risks being targeted. They have a yellow line in Gaza, too. And they were killing people left and right. Yesterday, the Israeli military had warned residents of 8 Lebanese towns outside what it calls the buffer zone to leave their homes immediately before the strikes. Israel has issued the same forced evacuation order to 20 villages previously. The attacks are continuing despite a U.S. brokered ceasefire, which began last month. Of course, ceasefire in quotations there, because everybody knows they're not going to abide by a ceasefire. In all, 40 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes during the truce. More than 1 million people have been displaced by Israel's war on Lebanon. Lebanon's cuck president Joseph Aoun and Lebanon's speaker Nabi Berri are reported to be divided on how to approach negotiations to end the war with Israel. On Thursday, the U.S. Embassy in Beirut said Lebanon is at a crossroads and its people have an opportunity to reclaim their country through peace talks with Israel. But that's the thing. Greater Israel ain't going to make itself by talkie-talkie. You have to go boom, boom, boom to get Greater Israel. And they know this. That's what they're doing. And they're saying, well, it's a ceasefire. Has Israel ever stopped firing during a ceasefire? I doubt it. I really do. How's everybody doing? Where are we up to? Anybody sneak in? No? All right. What's next? We got another aid flotilla is headed over to Israel, and of course it's been stopped, and people have been arrested. U.S. criticizes allies over failure to stop the Gaza aid flotilla. So our U.S. allies are basically saying, no, this is your dumb shit. You deal with it. Like Iran, this, everything. The U.S. has criticized its allies for failing to stop a Gaza-bound aid flotilla that was raided and seized by Israeli naval forces earlier this week. U.S. Department of State spokesperson Tommy Pigott yesterday described the flotilla as a baseless, counterproductive stunt, much like the Department of State. He said Washington expects allies to take decisive action, including denying port access, docking, departure, and refueling to vessels involved in the mission. This flotilla circumvents mechanisms designed to ensure humanitarian assistance is received by civilians, Pygott said, chuckling because he knew that was bullshit. The United States will explore using available tools to impose consequences on those who provide support to this pro-Hamas flotilla and supports our allies' legal actions against. Israeli forces seized at least 21 Gaza-bound ships carrying humanitarian aid Wednesday in international waters and detained 175 activists in what organizers from the global Samud flotilla described as an act of piracy. German and Italian officials expressed deep concern and urged full respect of international law in a joint statement. Rome also called on Israel to release unlawfully detained Italian nationals. The State Department's comments come amid increasing rifts between the U.S. and its European allies in light of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Last week, the U.S. government threatened to punish NATO members for failing to support the war on Iran and considered expelling Spain from the alliance due to its vocal opposition to the war, according to an internal Pentagon email, I should say. Hey, Mystery, your ears were burning a while ago. I hope you know that. So hope you, not literally, because that would be painful, but you know what I mean. In the same email, U.S. officials expressed interest in recognizing Argentinian territorial claims over the Falkland Islands to punish the United Kingdom for its supposedly inadequate support for the war. Trumpy's Board of Peace, the American-led initiative to create a new governance system in Gaza, also condemned the flotilla as performative love boat activism. The love boat, da-da-da, soon we'll be making another run. Hi, everybody. Jack Jones here. Let's see. Performative love boat activism. Where's Captain Stubing when you need it? Instead of calling on concerned people to maintain pressure on Hamas, according to a statement on the Twitters. Yes, because Hamas, it's all Hamas. In its statement on Thursday, the board claimed that it has significantly scaled up support for the people of Gaza and that food aid is reaching 3 times more people than before. That's bullshit, because they were getting like 600 trucks a day through there, and they're getting 200 maybe at the maximum. So those be lies. This past April, the Gaza government media office stated that an average of 227 aid trucks have been entering the strip daily, only 30% of the level agreed upon under the October ceasefire agreement. Israel has continued to tighten restrictions on aid entering Gaza despite the U.S.-mediated truce, leading to a decline in food deliveries. Middle East Eye reported that Palestinians in Gaza are fearful of imminent famine amid shortages of ingredients, cooking gas, and fuel. So lies beget lies beget lies. But some of these two of the people are still in custody, I think, being held as suspects. They're both one of them is Palestinian. I think the other one has worked extensively to help pro-Palestinian causes. I think those are the two that are still there. Go Start over on the Rumbly Tumblies, holding it down. Very good. Nice to know it's in good hands. What else we got here? Oh yeah, so about that flotilla. Interesting. Israel's Western and Arab partners helped coordinate abduction of Gaza flotilla activists. How about that? There's the boat right there too. Those eyes staring at you in the night. Probably scares the hell out of some fish. The Israeli army used the U.S. headquarters in Kiryat Gat in Israel to coordinate with military officers from several countries to obstruct the Global Freedom Flotilla sailing to Gaza to break Israel's blockade of the Strip, Israeli media reported. Israeli officials took advantage of meetings held inside the U.S.-led Civil Military Coordination Center, the CMCC, not the Music Factory, with officers from the militaries of various countries to raise the issue of the flotilla and push to block its arrival in Gaza by sea. So it's not that the blockade is not useful or anything. It's embarrassing to the Israeli government. And we're going to talk about how they're trying to fix their propaganda problems coming up in the propaganda watch. There's country raised usually pushback. Okay. So in the early hours of yesterday, Israeli army radio announced that Israeli forces had seized the ships of the Freedom Flotilla near Greece and abducted the activists on board. The CMCC in Kiryat Gat was established in October 2025 under the auspices of U.S. President Trump's Board of Peace, allegedly to oversee the entry of humanitarian aid and reconstruction of Gaza after a ceasefire was reached with Hamas. Officers from the U.S., Egypt, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Germany, France, and Spain were dispatched to staff the CMCC. However, the Spanish officers were expelled in April following Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's criticism of Israel's killing of civilians in Gaza and Lebanon. The meeting in Kiryat Gat between Israeli military officials and their foreign counterparts formed a platform for direct and informal discussions on ways to deal with the maritime initiative. In contrast, foreign military officials explained that they do not have the authority to prevent their citizens from participating in the fleet, as it is a civilian initiative, although some countries have expressed their willingness to provide support in this context, and they have in the past. I believe Spain was one of those. Yes, we will be doing that tonight. We will be doing that tonight, folks. So the Israeli Foreign Ministry announced in a statement that the military was releasing 175 abducted Gaza flotilla participants on the Greek island of Crete in cooperation with Greek authorities. However, Israel refused to release 2 activists, Saif Abu Keshek, a Spanish citizen of Palestinian origin, and Thiago Avila, a Brazilian with a long history of pro-Palestinian activism. Both are being transferred to Israel as suspects. Saif Abu Keshek is suspected of affiliation with a terrorist organization, and Thiago Avila is suspected of illegal activity. will be brought to Israel for questioning, the ministry claimed in a post on the tweeters. The flotilla organizers are calling for pressure on Israel to release the 2 remaining abductees. CashApp has been active for the best part of his life in the struggle against the occupation of Palestine. He served as a coordinator for the International Solidarity Movement in Nablus in the occupied West Bank during the Second Intifada in the early 2000s. ISM is a Palestinian-led movement committed to resisting the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land using nonviolent direct action methods and principles. During the last attempt by the Freedom Flotilla to reach Gaza last year, Israel abducted some 450 activists before releasing them. The Israeli police and prison officials sexually assaulted and raped one of the activists, German journalist Anna Liedke. In response to the abduction of activists CashApp and Avila, Greek economist and activist Yanis Varoufakis stated that the Greek government is cooperating fully in Israel's criminal behavior, effectively surrendering its search and rescue obligations and conniving with Israel to victimize the brave crews of the Samud flotilla. Varoufakis called on the Greek government and the EU to cease and desist from lending logistical and moral support to Israel's genocide in Gaza and its ethnic cleansing campaigns in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Yeah, so, yeah, the flotilla shines a light on the situation, right? It gets people who aren't normally involved with this kind of stuff at least curious as to, why are they painting up these boats? What is all this free Gaza business? What's with the eyeballs? I don't get it. And it gets them a little more curious. Because they know they're going to get arrested. They know they're going to get stopped. And they use that information to say, see, look, we're trying to help these people in Gaza, but you know, the powers that be won't let us do it. Ding, 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 ding. So yeah, that's it for the news block today. We got a lot in the propaganda watch. Of course, we always have a lot of propaganda anyway. But this time it's all around May Day. Is it May Day? Or is it just another parade?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some of the outlets publish these things they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so U.S. working class mobilizing ahead of nationwide May Day strong rallies. What's up, Michael? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, you know, these the No Kings protests, and this kind of stuff. This just seems like, yeah, there's some probably real deal people out there who truly want change, but there's a lot of virtue signaling too. That's why I stuck it in here. This has nothing to do with May Day itself. It has to do with this stuff. So labor groups, students, and families are among those preparing for nationwide rallies and marches today as part of this year's May Day strong protest to demand a nation that puts workers over billionaires amid worsening U.S. wealth inequality under Trumpy and Republican rule, and well, just under two-party any kind of duopoly rule. We're building a day of power, May Day strong organizers said on the event website, because when the billionaires break every rule, it's going to take more than a rally to stop them. Exactly. As Common Dreams reported, May Day Strong, a coalition of 500 labor and community organizers, has planned over 3,000 events across the nation to demand higher taxes on the wealthiest Americans, abortion of U.S. immigration, ICE enforcement, abolition. Okay, maybe, yeah, I guess abortion worked there too. Amid Trump's deadly crackdown on immigrants and their supporters, and an end to the illegal U.S.-Israeli war of choice on Iran and expanding democracy over corporate rule. Sounds good, but how does it taste? Following the examples of the historic 2006 Day Without Immigrants that reshaped May Day and the black-led corporate campaigns that have unseated CEOs, to Minnesota's resistance to occupation, together we will flex our collective power in a tremendous day of action rallying, marching, and taking action to demand a country that puts workers over billionaires. With many refusing business as usual, the coalition added, no work, no school, no shopping. As NoliDee Dominguez, executive director of Organized Power in Numbers, one of the coalition's leaders, said, we want our tax dollars going to good jobs, schools, and housing, not to sending federal agents into our cities to attack our neighbors. We want a government that puts more into community benefits and less into billionaire bank accounts, Dominguez added. We are for one job being enough to pay the bills for housing people can't afford, and for public schools and health care that work for working families, not piggy banks for the ultra-rich to steal them. Ooh, that's a large face right there. Sorry. Liz Schuler, president of the AFL-CIO, which represents nearly 15 million workers and 65 affiliated unions, said Wednesday that for the labor movement, workers' Memorial Day and May Day aren't just days of reflection, they are days of demand. Amid attacks on our health and safety, our civil rights, and our very freedom to organize, we are standing up for a worker-centered vision of America, Schuler continued. From now through November, the AFL-CIO, our state and local labor movements, and allies across the country will be in the streets and at work sites to peacefully engage our co-workers and neighbors on the issues at stake in the next election so we can ensure that everyone can vote and every vote is counted, and unify working people around our economic demands. This week and for the months to come, we will continue to fight for our vision of a worker-centered America, she added. American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten said in a statement that May Day has its roots in the fight for fair wages, safe workplaces, and a better life, and a reminder that real change happens when working people act together. That includes attacks on immigrant workers who are an essential part of our workplaces and communities, she added. That's why May Day isn't just about showing up in the streets. It's about using our power every way it counts. Yeah, but then when May 2nd rolls around, where's everybody at? Hundreds of thousands of people rallied from coast to coast last May 1st to mark International Workers' Day with spirited demonstrations supporting labor rights and protesting Trump's billionaire agenda and attacks on the rule of law, unions, immigrants, Palestine defenders, transgender people, and others. Ozempic breath is causing a spike in mint sales. Okay. Since then, U.S. wealth inequality has widened as the pro-plutocrat provisions of Republicans' so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act have taken effect, especially the permanent extension of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which delivered big benefits to the rich and corporations, but nearly none for working families, according to a pair of progressive economic groups. Federal Reserve data published earlier this year showed the top 1% of Americans held nearly 1/3 of all U.S. wealth, the highest share since the Fed began tracking such stats in the late 80s, while the bottom half held just 2.5%. Experts say the situation will worsen as some of the worst parts of the Big Beautiful Bill, including the biggest cuts to Medicaid and food assistance in those programs' histories, take effect in the near future. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I know there are sincere actors out there who have an affection for May Day, for May 1st, right? And and I'm not trying to quash that at all. I think there are legitimate people. I think they're trying to do something, but they're going about it the wrong way, right? When you have these no kings and you have like these, one-day event things, it's not going to change anything. Well, it'll bring awareness. No, it's not going to bring awareness. What's bringing awareness are high prices. Everything being too damn high. The rent's too damn high. And, so to have these virtue signaling parties is all well and good. But to say that they're actually doing something to change things, we have to agree to disagree on that one. But if you're out today doing the May Day thing, have fun, enjoy yourself. But, what are you going to do May 2nd? What are you going to do May 3rd? What are you going to do May 4th? That sort of thing. Global press freedom. You would think it'd be at its all-time high. I'm kidding. It's at its worst. Lowest point. Reporters Without Borders declares 2026 lowest point for global press freedom, and it's only the first day of May. In its 2026 World Press Freedom Index, Reporters Without Borders, RSF in French, reports that global press freedom has reached its lowest level in the index's 25-year history, with more than half of the world's countries now classified as difficult or very serious for journalistic freedom. I'm sure the constant, cameras and our lack of freedom have something to do with that. Journalists are still being killed and imprisoned for their work, but the tactics undermining press freedom are evolving. Journalism is being asphyxiated by hostile political discourse towards reporters, weakened by a faltering media economy, and squeezed by laws being used as weapons against the press, the RSF report read. For the first time since RSF began tracking press freedom, 52.2% of countries fall into those bottom two categories, marking a dramatic decline in press freedom conditions from 2002, when the figure stood at just 13.7%. Less than 1% of the global population now lives in a country where press freedom is rated good, down from 20% almost 25 years ago. Yeah. They sneaky like that. Of the 5 indicators RSF uses to measure press freedom, covering economic, legal, security, political, and social environments, the legal indicator dropped the sharpest this year. RSF tied the slide to the increasing weaponization of law against reporters globally. In West Asia, Saudi Arabia tumbled 14 places after a year that RSF tied to state violence against journalists, among them the execution of Turki al-Jasser. Press freedom across the Gulf has come under increasing suppression, with authorities tightening control over information, expanding arrests, and using broad security laws to criminalize dissent and restrict independent reporting. That's why you're seeing jail sentences for some reporters in some of these countries. Because they want you doing that. Palestine sat at 156th, with RSF pointing to the more than 220 journalists killed in Gaza alone by Israeli forces since October 2023. In December last year, RSF declared Israel the world's worst enemy of journalists, finding that Israeli forces were responsible for 43% of all journalist deaths globally between 2024 and 2025, nearly half the year's total toll of 67. The organization said those killed were not collateral casualties, with RSF Secretary General Christophe Delors stating plainly that they were killed targeted for their work. Israeli journalist Yuval Abraham further revealed that military intelligence had established a dedicated unit tasked with finding pretrial justifications to label Palestinian journalists as Hamas operatives, Hamas, before killing them, sometimes targeting their residences with their families inside. Since the start of Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, RSF counts at least 300 journalists killed by Israeli forces on all its fronts, making Israel the deadliest country for reporters for 3 consecutive years. Yay! Look at that, 3 years run and you're the worst. In the most recent Israeli assault on Lebanon, Israeli forces deliberately killed at least 5 journalists in under a month, including 3 in a single strike on a clearly marked press vehicle in southern Lebanon in late March. Maybe they should put on these cars BB's cars so they don't fucking blow it up. In the U.S., RSF said Trump has turned repeated attacks on the press and journalists into a systematic policy, dropping the country to 64th place in its global press freedom ranking. I can't believe we're that high. It's got to be much lower than that. Despite the report ranking EU countries as generally high in press freedom, a pattern of cases across the continent tells a more complicated story. Coverage of the genocide in Gaza in particular has increasingly become grounds for arrest, deportation, and terrorism charges against journalism. Oh, you're terrorizing us with the truth. Stop it. Richard Medhurst was arrested at Heathrow in August 2024 under the Terrorism Act and subsequently faced a home raid and residency threats from Austrian intelligence in February last year due to his reporting on Gaza. Electronic Intifada director Ali Abu Nima was detained for 3 days and deported in handcuffs by Swiss authorities in January last year to prevent a speaking engagement, an action that was later condemned by UN experts and eventually ruled unjustified by the Swiss government. Swiss government. Every time I hear Swiss, I think of Swiss Miss chocolate. Since 2023, in particular, a number of Western European countries, including the UK, France, and Germany, have systematically arrested, deported, and charged journalists and commentators covering Palestine under counterterrorism and immigration laws. Press freedom and human rights organizations have described it as a coordinated effort to silence reporting on the war in Gaza and criminalize solidarity with Palestinians. I believe that's it. Because they know people are getting more and more on the side of Palestine. They're starting to figure out, well, they're not all Hamas. So what are these people? These people in Israel are maniacs. And I don't like to say that, as a whole, or no country is a monolith, but Israel's pretty much on board with everything they're doing. So, what are you going to say? So the owner of the Telegraph and Politico says, you got to support Israel or hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no mo. No mo, no mo, no mo. Yeah, there he is right there. He doesn't look like he looks like he's in need of some adrenochrome. He looks very low. The owner of the Telegraph and Politico has said the outlet's journalists must back Israel or resign, prompting accusations that the newsroom's independence is under threat. What do you think? Tensions inside Politico were laid bare this week after Axel Springer CEO Matthias Döpfner told staff that backing Israel forms a core value of working at the outlet. Axel Springer acquired the Politico news site in 2021. The remarks came during a tense internal meeting on Monday convened after Politico journalists sent a letter to incoming editor-in-chief Jonathan Greenberger accusing the media mogul Döpfner of using the publication to promote his political agenda. Staff warned that his recent opinion pieces risk undermining the outlet's reputation as an impartial news source, the Jewish Insider reported. The controversy deepened scrutiny of Axel Springer's expanding media empire, particularly after it secured approval earlier this month to acquire the Daily Telegraph. Journalists fear the ideological direction set at the top could reshape editorial lines across its titles, skewing coverage of Israel, which faces a case at the ICJ over the Gaza genocide that has killed at least 73,000 people and left more than 173,000 wounded. Döpfner, however, has made his position explicit. He insists that loyalty to Israel sits at the heart of the company's identity, presenting it as part of a broader framework of 5 core values called the Essentials, that also includes freedom, free markets, individual freedom, and freedom of speech. Unless you don't like Israel, then you can shut the fuck up. He places support for Israel immediately after those principles. If that is something that somebody wants to question, then we are really reaching the very fundamental principles of our values. The very fundamental principles of your values. Your values. What values? And that then may lead simply to the decision that because we are very transparent about it, it is then an individual decision whether Axel Springer and somebody who has so fundamentally different beliefs is really a good fit. The backlash also draws on a pattern of statements by Döpfner, who has been dubbed Germany's Rupert Murdoch. Yikes. Germany's Adolf Hitler. Wait, what? No, they already had one of those. Sorry. A leaked email published by Die Zeit last year revealed Döpfner ending a summary of his political beliefs with the phrase, Zionism über alles, Israel, my country. Zionism über alles translates to Zionism above all else. The phrase Uber Allies is highly controversial, or Uber Alles is highly controversial in Germany, where it formed the opening line of the national anthem during the Nazi period and came to symbolize the idea of Germany as superior to all other nations. Isn't that what Israel's to? Oh, wait, don't say that. In October last year, Israeli President Isaac Herzog presented the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor. They have a Medal of Honor in Israel. That's kind of ironic. To Daphne and casino mogul and pro-Israel megadonor Miriam Adelson, of course. Doesn't she own like half of Israel? Inside the newsroom, journalists challenged Daphner's editorial interventions more directly. He defended his writing and rejected calls for stricter evidentiary standards in opinion pieces. Okay. The thing that honestly irritated me the most, he said, responding to the criticism of his language on Iran, is that you said in the latest piece he refers to Iran as the aggressor that was systematically pursuing nuclear weapons, and you think that is misleading and irresponsible to publish that without clarification. I think you have to qualify or prove arguments or points if they are new or if they are debatable, but for me at least, these two facts, that the Iranians are working on the nuclear bomb and that they are aggressors for decades, are so obvious, so proven for many times, that they are almost, it's like saying America is the biggest democracy in the world. I don't have to prove it, he added. He sounded like Trump there when he said, the Iranians are working on the nuclear bomb and that they are aggressors for decades. It's so obvious, so proven for many times. See, it sounds like Trump. But there's no proof that Iran is the leading terrorizer of the world. That would be the United States. India is widely considered as the largest democracy in the world with 1.4 billion people, while Iran has always denied working on a nuclear weapon. Daphne went on to tell staff he intends to write more in the future, not less. That's good. Yeah, because you want more bullshit out there, because we don't have quite enough as it is. Do we? Do you remember the drug trafficker Juan Orlando Hernandez? I think he was the leader of was he like Honduras? I think so, maybe. Anyway, so he was pardoned by Trump a while back. Now leaked audios reveal pro-Israel groups paid for U.S. pardon of convicted drug trafficker Juan Orlando Hernandez. He is right there. Is that BB's wife? Jesus Christ. That's a manly looking woman. WhatsApp signal and Telegram audio messages published by Canal Red and Honduras Gate on April 29th revealed pro-Israel groups paid for the release of former Honduran president and convicted drug trafficker Juan Orlando Hernandez from U.S. federal prison last year. The pardon money came from a board of rabbis and people who supported Israel, and they had previously supported Yanni Rosenthal. JOH is heard saying in the leaked audios. That's Juan Orlando Hernandez, JOH. Yanni Rosenthal is the former president of the right-wing Liberal Party of Honduras. He was convicted in December 2017 of laundering drug proceeds for a prominent Honduran drug cartel. Oh, Honduras. In 2024, JOH was convicted in a U.S. federal court of three counts of drug trafficking and weapons conspiracy and received a 45-year prison sentence. He was also found guilty of receiving money from the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin Archivaldo El Chapo Guzman, to finance electoral fraud. JOH was pardoned late last year by Trump, who called the DEA investigation into Hernandez a Biden administration setup. Right. Trump announced the pardon hours before Honduras' presidential election. In that same social media post, Trump endorsed the current president, Nasri Tito Asfura, and threatened to cut aid to Honduras if he was not elected. The Prime Minister of Israel is going to give us his support. They had everything to do with my departure and negotiations, JOH says in one of the audios released on Wednesday. According to Canal Red, the leaked audio showed that Trump's pardon for JOH was secured through intense lobbying led by Roger Stone and the Republican caucus with support of Israeli Prime Minister, the Lord Satan. The audios also suggest that Hernandez's return to Honduras and his upcoming presidential run are being financed by Israel. Mr. President, I'm here asking about my case, if there's any resolution, if you have anything to share with me to see if there's been any progress with the Supreme Court. I want to believe that you won't sideline me because thanks to me, you're sitting in that chair, and I hope for your support because that's what we discussed with President Trump, JOH tells President Asfura in one of the leaked audios. According to the report, Trump and Netanyahu are seeking millions in compensation in exchange for securing Asfura's election and JOH's possible re-election. The negotiations at the Florida residence included the expansion of zones for employment and economic development, or ZEEDS, the construction of a new military base, a free trade agreement, and a law to incentivize investments in AI, whose contracts would be awarded directly to private American companies such as General Electric, Canal Red reports. ZEEDS, or private states model cities, permit autonomous courts and foreign legal systems in Honduras, which civil groups say surrender sovereignty. Additionally, a second set of leaked audios released yesterday involving JOH, Asfura, and Honduran Vice President Maria Antonieta Mejia indicates the formation of a news outlet funded with more than $500,000 in Honduran public funds, along with contributions from Javier Milei's government in Argentina. Yeah, there you go. That seals the deal. Aimed at attacking the left-wing governments of Gustavo Petro in Colombia and Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico. Yeah. So, yeah. It ain't about drug dealers for Trump. It's about the particular drug dealer that you are. If you like me, then you're a good drug dealer. If you don't like me, then you're a bad drug dealer, and you got to go down to Chinatown. As we told you earlier, Israel's image has been smeared at best, and by their own hand as well, because they got too cute by half, and then they forgot people have camera phones, and now everybody's exposed them for the evil cretins that they are. So what are they doing? Israel to pour $730 million, that's federal funds from the United States, by the way, into propaganda arm amid reputational crises. Israel is preparing to spend nearly $750 million on its propaganda arm as it seeks to counter a worsening global image shaped by the genocide in Gaza and regional wars, according to its national budget passed in March. First reported by the Jerusalem Post, a total of $730 million has been allocated to the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, known by its Hebrew name Hasbra, which oversees Israeli propaganda. We need that money. I always get Hasbra confused with Hasbro, the game maker, makes toys and stuff. Not the same at all. The figure marks a sharp increase from the $150 million set aside the previous year, which had already surged to roughly 20 times pre-2023 levels. The scale of the spending points to an intensified effort to improve Israel's international standing as negative perceptions grow, including in allied countries such as the United States. Israel has been widely accused of genocide in the Gaza Strip, where its forces have killed and injured more than 250,000 Palestinians since 2023 and starved 2.3 million people. The country has also been accused of creating an apartheid system in the occupied West Bank. Israel has additionally drawn criticism for belligerent acts in Syria, Lebanon, Qatar, and most recently the wars on Iran. Earlier this year, Israel faced intensifying scrutiny over links to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who has been suspected of ties to Mossad. Israel has denied the accusations. Right, of course it would. So meanwhile, Bibi is wanted by the ICC for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza, while Israel confronts genocide charges at the ICJ. Yeah, they are just, they're very popular for all the wrong reasons. In the U.S., Israel's closest ally, Israel has been accused of drawing Washington into the war with Iran, which triggered global economic disruption. A Pew Research Center poll published in April found that 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavorably. 60%. A sharp rise over the past year, while favorable views have dropped to 37%. The shift cuts across political and religious lines among Republicans under 50. A majority now hold negative views of Israel. Interesting. Support has also fallen among Black Protestants, Catholics, and the religiously unaffiliated. Even among American Jews, backing has slipped below 2/3. Alongside the budget increase, Israel's foreign ministry has expanded its messaging apparatus. Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has overseen the creation of a dedicated unit tasked with shaping international narratives. A dedicated unit tasked with lying to old people. Yeah, Hasbro, not Hasbra. Let's see. The government has committed tens of millions of dollars to digital campaigns, including a $50 million social media advertising push across major platforms. It's also spent around $40 million hosting hundreds of foreign delegations, ranging from politicians and clergy to influencers and university leaders. A centralized media war room now tracks coverage across hundreds of outlets and monitors thousands of daily references to Israel. The campaign extends into political consulting and targeted outreach. The foreign ministry signed a $1.5 million a month deal with the firm linked to former Trump strategist Brad Parscale to deploy artificial intelligence tools online. Additional funds have been directed towards evangelical networks, yikes, and influencer campaigns run through private PR firms. The surge in spending coincides with growing alarm within Israel's policy circles over deepening isolation. A recent paper by researchers at the Institute for National Security Studies in Tel Aviv warned that Israel faces diplomatic and public opinion isolation at levels not seen since its establishment back in the 40s. The report highlights what it describes as a creeping economic boycott, with businesses and academic institutions increasingly avoiding ties with Israel. Unless you live in Florida or Texas, then it's against the law to boycott Israeli products. It's against the law. Freedom, America. Researchers urge the government to intensify engagement with diaspora Jewish communities and Christian Zionist networks. Proposals include expanding youth travel programs to bring tens of thousands of young Jews and Christians to Israel each year, alongside efforts to strengthen influence within higher education. The paper also calls for a $100 million fund to boost Israeli research and recommends inviting leaders from top global universities to visit Israel with the aim of reinforcing institutional ties. Yeah, that's what that is. So Israel trying to bump up its image and not doing a very good job of it, especially when you don't cease fire. That's one of the things. When you don't cease fire, when you say you're going to cease fire, then people tend to say, you're full of shit. So Mexico and the U.S. have been mixing it up recently. I like the shine bomb lady down there. So far, so good, but we'll see. Always be skeptical. Mexico's shine bomb questions U.S. claims of drug ties to Sinaloa governor. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has cast doubt on accusations by the U.S. that Sinaloa Governor Ruben Rocha collaborated with the Sinaloa drug cartel after U.S. prosecutors charged him with having ties to organized crime. My position on these events is as follows. Truth, justice, and the defense of sovereignty, Sheinbaum said on Thursday. She added that the U.S. claims lack credibility unless they are backed by actual evidence. What? The U.S. don't bring evidence, fool? What's wrong with you? If the Attorney General's office, which is the competent authority, receives clear and irrefutable evidence under Mexican law, or if its own investigation finds elements constituting a crime, it must proceed in accordance with the law under our jurisdiction, she added. She stressed that any wrongdoing would be addressed if proven. We will not shield anyone who has committed a crime. However, if there is no clear evidence, it is evident that the aim of these charges by the U.S. Department of Justice is political, she added. The comments come after U.S. prosecutors unsealed an indictment in New York charging Roca and 9 current and former officials with alleged links to the Sinaloa cartel in a case that could strain relations between the two neighbors. They should probably put further after that because they're already kind of strained. Prosecutors accused the group of working with cartel leaders to move large quantities of narcotics into the U.S. in exchange for political support and bribes. You know, the old-fashioned way. They say the alleged links extended to Roca's 2021 gubernatorial campaign when members of the cartel's Chapitos faction are accused of backing his bid by interfering in the vote, including by stealing ballots and ballot boxes and kidnapping and intimidating opposition candidates, which is also going to be the ICE playbook come November when the midterms roll around. Stealing ballots and ballot boxes. U.S. authorities said several of those charged were aligned with the sons of jailed cartel co-founder Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and officials used their positions to shield cartel operations. The indictment comes amid a broader U.S. crackdown on senior figures within the Sinaloa cartel, including members of the Chapitos faction. Authorities have arrested key figures such as Ovidio Guzman, who was captured by Mexican forces in 2023 and later extradited to the U.S., while Joaquin Guzman Lopez is also now in U.S. custody. Longtime cartel leader Ismael El Mayo Zambada, who for decades evaded capture, was taken into U.S. custody in 2024. Roca has denied the allegations, calling them unfounded and politically driven, and has said he will challenge them and demonstrate they lack any basis. This attack is not only against me, but against the Fourth Transformation movement, its emblematic leaders, and the Mexican people who represent that cause, he said in a statement. The Fourth Transformation was policies undertaken by former President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, or AMLO, that centered around national development. Roca Moya, a longtime Moreno figure and former senator, won the Sinaloa governorship, if I can talk, in 2021 and has remained politically aligned with Lopez Obrador. Analysts say that what happens in the next few days remains critical. How will the Sheinbaum administration react is a big thing to watch in the next days. Vanda Felbaugh-Brown, an expert on non-state armed groups at the Brookings Institute think tank in Washington, said. She said the Mexican president appears to be buying time while deflecting pressure from Washington. She is essentially saying the evidence in the U.S. indictments is not sufficient and is asking Mexico's attorney general to review it before making a decision, she told Al Jazeera. She? Is it? Okay, yeah. She warned that if Mexico declines to act on the accusations without what it considers sufficient evidence, tensions could escalate. Felbaugh-Brown added that extraditing those indicted could give U.S. authorities a clearer picture of alleged corruption within the government and the Moreno party. It's very likely that the U.S. interrogations and probably plea bargain with Ovidio and Joaquin Guzman, and perhaps El Mayo provided significant evidence for those indictments, she added. The case unfolded as Mexico's government stepped up efforts to confront powerful drug cartels, unless you're in Honduras, carrying out a series of high-profile operations targeting organized crime figures in recent months, including the killing by security forces of Nemesio El Mencho Alciguera, who led the powerful Jalisco New Generations cartel. That was my old job. And then I got tired of being in a gang, went straight, started writing poetry. I keep sipping out of this, but I'm done. It's just wishful thinking, I guess. How's everybody doing? You still here? You guys just hanging out listening? That's good. What else we got here? I put this in here because I thought this was funny. Not funny, haha, but funny. Well, maybe a little funny, haha. The senators banned themselves from prediction market trading. Look at that. Oh, I've been so bad. But stock market trading, not so much. U.S. Senate yesterday voted unanimously to ban its members from making wagers on event prediction markets such as Kalshi or Polymarket, according to Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican out of Ohio. Ooh, I wonder if that's like the Mirror Universe's version of Bernie Sanders. I don't want socialism. I love capitalism. Everything's good. That's the Mirror Universe. Sorry. Senators passed a resolution submitted by Moreno that amends Senate rules to prohibit them from making any financial contracts or transactions that are dependent on whether or not a specific event occurs. The news came about a week after Kalshi announced that it fined and suspended one Republican and two Democratic congressional candidates for trading on the outcomes of their elections. While the prediction platform did not share their names, it stated that the culprits were candidates from Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District, Texas's 21st Congressional District, and Virginia's U.S. Senate seat. The day after the Kalshi announcement, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed an indictment charging an active-duty U.S. Army soldier with using classified data about the impending capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro to make wagers about the event on Polymarket. Yeah, I guess that's it. But this is just so stupid. It's like, oh, well, we're not going to use Polymarket, and we can't use that. But anything that we decide that affects, like, stocks, we can do that, no problem. So, they're banning themselves from... That's like saying you're on a diet, right? And you're like, man, I promise I'm not going to eat all that sugary stuff. And what do? You end up eating stuff that's like way too bad for you. You're like, well, this story here, you're like, well, why are you waiting so long to talk about this? Trump says Secret Service agent was not shot by friendly fire. So there was an attempt. There was a quote unquote assassination attempt. This is like the 4th one or something. Trump said a Secret Service agent who was shot April 25th at the White House Correspondents Association dinner was not struck by friendly fire, but instead by the suspected gunman. They say it was not friendly fire, Trump told reporters on April 30th. That was yesterday, when asked who was responsible for shooting the agent. That's what I heard. I heard that. They said it wasn't friendly fire. It was actually reported. Couldn't have been fake news, right? Trump's remarks come as a federal review of witness and agent statements have found evidence consistent with the alleged gunman, 31-year-old Cole Allen, shooting the Secret Service agent. This video. The findings appear to undercut recent speculation by online observers who have pored over video of the shootout and saw numerous agents training their weapons on Allen from different angles. Evidence collected so far, USA Today reported this week, indicates the only Secret Service agent who actually fired their weapon at Allen was the one who was injured as he tried to prevent what prosecutors say was an attempted assassination on Trump. The agent, who has not been identified, fired 5 times but did not hit the suspect. Maybe he shot himself. It could have happened. One of those weird JFK bullets. The weapons of all the other Secret Service agents at the scene were checked during the federal review and were never fired, according to a law enforcement source who spoke on the condition of anonymity to USA Today to discuss an ongoing investigation that's being conducted by the FBI and Secret Service. John Curran, director of the Secret Service, said all the evidence indicates the agent was shot at point-blank range with a shotgun by the suspect. A shotgun. I don't know if you get shot by a shotgun at close range, that's it. There's no more you. Our officer heroically returned fire while being shot point-blank range in the chest with a shotgun and was able to get off 5 shots, Curran said in an interview yesterday on the Will Kane show. I don't believe none of that shit. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, oh God, that broad, said law enforcement is still awaiting official results from ballistic tests, but said it's clear the suspect fired his 12-gauge shotgun in the direction of the agent who was hit. I don't think there's any question of what happened here, Pirro said in an interview on Fox News. Well, yeah, there's plenty of questions. Well, when people say, well, there's no question, I don't think there's any question, then there are definite questions, and they're probably hiding something. Allen faces assassination and firearm charges. Federal prosecutors say the teacher and mechanical engineer traveled across the country from California to Washington, booked a room at the Washington Hilton, armed himself with weapons, and tried to burst his way into the WHCA dinner. It's fun to stay at the WHCA. It's fun to stay at the... Sorry. To kill the president and other Trump administration officials, allegedly. Damn. Allen was apprehended after firing a shotgun in the direction of stairs leading to the ballroom dinner area. According to prosecutors, no fatalities resulted from the gunfire. A 12-gauge shotgun in the chest. I don't care how much Kevlar you're wearing. There's going to do some damage. At close range, too. Y'all smell that? I smell it. Smells like bullshit. Bullshit. Oops. Okay. Why are you doing that? We got another one here. Okay. Where are we at here? Okay. So we got another James Lee video here talking about this. Some of the oddities around the assassination attempt. So here's another James Lee video, because you're so nice. It's not going to be a black screen for long, I promise.
It started getting noisy. Tables getting flipped over, guys running in with guns, and they were screaming, "Get down!" I didn't get down. It was fucking awesome. I literally took every minute of it in, and it was a pretty crazy, unique experience.
This whole thing is just a show, isn't it? Welcome to the fakest and gayest timeline of all time. With full respect to the gays, nothing against you guys. I'm sure you've probably all heard by now a suspect armed with knives and guns tried to storm the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night, just as Israeli-born mentalist Oz Perlman was performing on stage for Donald Trump. Perhaps his greatest illusion to date, if you catch my drift. But anyways, as you could see, I am not in my normal setup right now. I had to create this makeshift studio to talk to you guys today because, wow, I think we are live witnessing the Hollywoodification, okay? I'm calling it that, Hollywoodification of DC in real time. Okay, the New York Times reports that the White House Correspondents' Dinner held to celebrate press freedom quickly descended into panic on Saturday evening when a man carrying multiple weapons charged past a security checkpoint at the Washington Hilton and exchanged fire with law enforcement officials before taken into custody. The suspect was identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31, of Torrance, California, by law enforcement officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to disclose the information. Under normal times, I think this would be a moment of solemn reflection for the nation, right? Where are we as a people that someone would be driven to do something so heinous as to kill or try to kill the President of the United States? But alas, we are not in normal times, so immediately people started doing some noticing, shall we say. For example, search spikes for a Cole Thomas Allen popping up in a certain country in the Middle East that happens to be our greatest ally in the days leading up to Saturday evening. Quite bizarre, quite peculiar that they always have a heads up, don't you think? And then this image of the shooter started to circulate on social media of him wearing what it looks like to be an Israeli Defense Forces, an IDF shirt. Is it real? I don't know, to be honest with you. Some are saying it's real, some are saying it's not real, and I think with AI deepfakes, everything should be on the table. Grok does say that the image supposedly came from his now deleted Instagram. We have been talking quite a bit about AI hallucinations lately, so I would definitely take that with a grain of salt. But speaking of AI hallucinations, take a look at this video post by Benny Johnson saying that, quote, "This was an armed attack by a Democrat with the intention of killing the elected president with a deadly weapon. This attack is worse than every single thing that happened on January 6, 2021 combined. The media will never tell you this, but it's true." But let's roll tape and see if you guys notice anything weird. I mean, okay, there's so many things wrong with this, starting with CapCut AI in the upper left-hand corner here. And then you can see the guy coming in holding what it looks like some kind of white poster, and then he's coming, and then it just disappears from the screen. Yeah. Let's go again.
Yeah, there he is.
What are we doing here, guys? Like, please, if we're gonna do propaganda, it would be nice if you put a little bit more effort into it. Oh, but the weirdness continues. As it turns out, Cole Allen went to Caltech and worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Yes, he worked at JPL, and I would say that is very interesting timing given all the UFO stories that have been circulating around. So cue the conspiracy theorists on this one. Seriously, it's starting to look like this is all just one big show and they're just toying with everyone at this point.
Ready to rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
I know, it's a euphemism. Shots fired doesn't actually mean shots fired, so nothing to see here at all. Except take a listen to what this Fox News correspondent had to say right after the event.
I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some.
And then they cut her off.
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And
there was some what? What was she about to say? I mean, what a convenient time for the call to drop is, I guess, what we're left with. This, by the way, was Trump's first time attending the White House Correspondents' Dinner in a long time. Actually, the first time as president. And CNN's Brian Stelter had this article just a few hours before the event saying to expect the unexpected. I mean, that's a nice scoop right there, Brian. And then there were the reactions from the high-profile attendees, like one Erica Kirk.
I just want to go find you.
Right as she goes by the camera, I just want to go home. I would say that's good acting, but it's really not. And if it was real, that's also a little concerning, given she seems way more upset about this than when her husband was, publicly executed. And then there was Dana White's reaction. Let's play it.
It started getting noisy. Tables getting flipped over, guys running in with guns, and they were screaming, "Get down!" I didn't get down. It was fucking awesome. I literally took every minute of it in, and it was a pretty crazy, unique experience.
This whole thing is just a show, isn't it? But maybe the most ridiculous thing to come out of last night perhaps has to be this mass influencer campaign saying this is why Trump needs a new ballroom.
I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
Oh, is that right? I didn't want to say this, but the military's been wanting this ballroom for 150 years, and that's why we have to have it now. Beyond parody at this point. Now, the full manifesto of the alleged gunman Cole Allen was published a couple hours ago by the New York Post. I won't read the whole thing. You can Google it if you want. But there's a section in here that I find to be quite peculiar that I want to point out in where he lambasts security at the event. He says, quote, "No damn security. Not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. Like, the one thing that I immediately noticed walking into the hotel is the sense of arrogance. I walk in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that I could be a threat. The security at the event is all outside, focused on protesters and current arrivals because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before. Like, this level of incompetence is insane, and I very sincerely hope it's corrected by the time this country gets actually competent leadership again. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but does it not seem a little weird that he's commenting on the security of the event? Was he, like, in the lobby writing this manifesto before he charged the security? It's almost like this was just about getting the ballroom. You know what I mean? Or maybe it was this A++ comment that I have to shout out. Sir, your ratings regarding this war and overall approval are dropping even lower. What should we do? Shoot me again. That's pretty good. Probably a non-zero chance that it might be one of these two reasons why this incident occurred. Now, I do want to end by addressing the conspiratorial nature of this report, or specifically the private feedback that I've been getting of how could you engage in this crazy conspiracy in a time like this? And I just want to say my rebuttal to that is, yes, it is crazy to say this, but we kind of live in crazy times. And at this point, it almost kind of doesn't matter whether or not this was a real assassination attempt or not, because the response is what matters, right? Trump isn't talking about healing this country. He's not really talking about, he's not reflecting on how the government can do better to serve its citizens. Rather, he and his influencers, all they can talk about is building this new ballroom and how we need to pass laws to surveil everybody after this. Right? That's what the conspiracy theorists, the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists, are worried about. The government doing these alleged false flags to justify ushering in more draconian laws. So I would say think about it in this context, right? If the outcome is the same regardless, if they're just going to do all these things that they want to do, then the event itself being real or staged sort of becomes a point of irrelevance. But hey, that's just what I think. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, right? Was this a real threat on the president's life, or was it just central casting, a stage spectacle? Sound off. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Also, if you want to support my journalism, you can become a member by going to my website, 5149jameslee.com. You could pick yourself up some merch there as well. But if you're not able to, no worries at all. Just take a second to like this video, share it, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't done so yet, so you can be the first to know when my next video drops. As always, I'd love to thank you for your time, and I will see you in the next one.
The president's absolutely right. You saw the best resolve of American law enforcement because you, Mr. President, inspire them 24/7, 365. You give them the resources that they need, and they know that you have their back. And that is a changing dynamic in this country, and that's why you saw brave Secret Service agents respond immediately, swiftly, subdue and take down the suspect, and safeguard the lives of thousands of individuals at that hotel.
Cash out in the audience. Hey, urine, maybe a little poop. Yeah, I don't know if Cash was in on the loop on that or not. But that's funny shit. I don't care who you are. Yeah, I think that's what people are like. Oh, they shot at him, because either they don't care or they don't believe it. One or the other. That seems to be the majority of people. The only person who seems to believe this bullshit are the cultists at this point. So good to see you, P Stuff. Hope you're doing well, dear. He cashed me inside under the table. The cash me outside girl. He's the cash me inside guy. So yeah, that's our propaganda watch for today. Good stuff by James Lee. If you're not checking out his stuff, his channel is called 5149 with James Lee, L-I, Lee at his last name. Also want to remind you guys of our mutual aid that we have continually going on here. Shout outs to the folks who need it the most. RIP to our buddy Chanda. We can get this going. Oh, hello. No, nobody asked you to do that. There we go. Weird. She's passed on, but her GoFundMe is still up, and I haven't heard anything from anybody else saying anything's changed. So until I hear different, I'm still gonna post her GoFundMe up here. They could be for funeral expenses, maybe lingering medical bills. So I'll leave that up there. All the links are down below in the description, and also on our Substack. All the links to all the stories will be on the Substack probably within about an hour or so. We'll have those up. So yeah, if you can help out, we appreciate it. We also have Justice for Aspen, who is dealing with legal problems down in Georgia. She was a passenger in a vehicle. The driver was arrested, and she was arrested because when you arrest the driver in Georgia, you have to arrest everybody else in the car for Georgia reasons. Our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his sister-in-law Natalia, is still dealing with legal fees, trying to fight being deported over bullshit. She's in this country legal. She has a legal right to be here. More ICE bullshit. If you can help out, we appreciate it. Our buddies NoliDee and Kevin, both dealing with the aftermaths of fires. I think Kevin lost everything in the fire in LA out there. If you could help NoliDee and Kevin out from Black Bear News, we appreciate that as well. Again, if you all the links are down below. If you know of anybody who's in need of mutual aid, if you could contact me, ExtraBulla@gmail.com. I'll be sure to put them on the shout out list. So tonight is a very special occasion coming up tonight. Our buddy Chuck the Alien will be premiering episode 6 of Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. We have a little clip here for you. Let's take a watch and a listen.
Thank you for visiting the dark side of the moon. We hope you had a marvelous time. If retained knowledge of this visit is unauthorized, please stand by for a brief and mostly harmless short-term memory adjustment.
Switching back to Galactic Citizens Wideband.
Breaker.
For the purposes of intergalactic security, your short-term memory has been erased. Have a fantastic day.
Hello? Wait, who am I? What am I doing here?
I'm sure glad we're not that guy. Indeed. Nobody wants to be that guy. It's Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube and Rumble. Chuck UFO Show. That is the name of the channel. Be sure to check it out tonight. And of course, after that, about an hour later, we'll have the secret show on for you. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. More nutty videos, more fun facts, more hanging out with peeps, and more getting away from the psychosis of this world for at least a couple hours. Come hang out with us tonight. That's on YouTube, Rumble, and on Facebook as well. So, yeah, Chuck, drop your channel in the chat. I said at Chuck UFO Show, but maybe a visual would be better. I don't know. People tend to see visual stuff better. Finally, today, we see weird shit up in the skies all the time. But how would you, what if something landed in your backyard and you're like, what? Yona, what's up? Smoke more the weeds. Smoke more the weeds. I'll see you to YouTube, buddy. So in Cali, you're going back to Cali. I think so. Mind if we drop in? Hot air balloon with 13 aboard makes emergency landing in California backyard. see here. This is in Temecula, California. I don't know if there's really much video-wise here. So let's see. Here we go. So they just landed in the backyard. Say, hey, we're not from space. We're here. And then the thing. Yeah, so anyway, you get the gist. Balloon landed in a SoCal backyard, a balloon with 13 people. The enormous hot air balloon with a pilot and passengers in the basket put the lotion in the basket. Descended perfectly Saturday on a small plot of grass at a home in Temecula. Hunter Perrin said he had no idea that he had visitors until a neighbor alerted him. I was watching TV and my wife was doing yoga, Perrin told the AP. There was a man standing in front of my door saying they just landed. What? I was very confused. Maybe they thought Nick 2 Verata. Maybe they thought it was one of those deals. But there they were, a group of anxious people suddenly relieved to be on solid ground. Perrin's grassy backyard patch is only about 10 feet or about 3 meters wide. It was unbelievable, like something out of a Disney fairy tale, Jenna Perrin said. The balloon didn't hit our house or our trees. It was kissing the fence. Brianna Avalos and her husband were riding in the balloon to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. She said the pilot informed passengers that he needed to make an emergency landing because of low fuel and a shift in winds. Probably shouldn't have went to that bean eating contest before getting on the balloon, kids. At first I was like, oh my God, we're in a backyard. This is crazy. Avalos told KABC TV. Yeah, you get high, then you come back down. That's right. That's why you need that fire to keep you up. The blue balloon with gold stars and a crescent moon image was a spectacle as it came to rest in the backyard, towering over Perrin's home. The pilot disembarked the passengers, returned aloft, and then landed the balloon nearby in the street where it was dismantled. He was an amazing pilot, Avalos said. Denny Barrett, the owner of Magical Adventure, which provides the balloon rides, declined to identify the pilot, but said he had exercised great judgment and done the right thing. Most of our landings are in wine country, Barrett said, referring to the vineyards in California's Riverside County. Usually they're bigger backyards. Yeah, Temecula, not exactly one of those places, but yeah, so they just like, holy Jesus, Daddy, oh my Christ, where did you come from? I'm hallucinating again. I got to get better drugs. Yeah, so that's it. That's all you get. You weren't good enough, so you don't get any more. I'm sorry. Now you were good enough. I think that's enough. Yeah, Temecula was a poor hippie town. Now yuppie vineyard. Oh, so there's vineyards there too? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, that's it. Don't forget, Chuck UFO Show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Rumble. Chuck UFO Show. That is the name of the channel. Be sure to check that out. Subscribe, like, share, do all that kind of stuff. Help our peeps in the space, our little independent worker bees here. We're trying to do our best to keep you informed, keep you entertained, that sort of thing. And then don't forget, Secret Show tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern. YouTube, Rumble, Book of Faces, of course, on ExtraBulla. Yeah, that's it. Unless anybody else got any unfinished business here, I think it's time to get out. Yeah, time to get fried on Friday. That's right. So again, if check out Chuck's UFO Show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. It's youtube.com at Chuck UFO Show. That's right, free. It's FREE. That is free, but the quality is priceless. Okay. Other than that, I may do something over the weekend. Not sure. These past few weekends have been a little busy and a little not feeling good kind of thing, so I haven't been doing much. Otherwise, if you don't see me this weekend, I'll be back Wednesday with Laine P on the Undercurrent at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack as well. And, of course, back here next week, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time for Morning Extra. Thank you very much, folks. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you tonight. Hopefully we'll see you at Chuck's premiere and for the Secret Show tonight. Peace out, everybody. Word to the mother. Yay!
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Soon.